السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إن شئت سهلا. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وعلى كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم أنت ربنا لا إله إلا أنت، خلقتنا ونحن عبيدك ونحن على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعنا. نعوذ بك من شر ما صنعنا، نبوء لك بنعمتك علينا ونبوء بذنوبنا فاغفر لنا، فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم اغفر لآبائنا وأمهاتنا وإخواننا وأخواتنا وأبنائنا وبناتنا وأزواجنا وسائر من له حق علينا يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين. نكمل with commentary. We continue inshallah مع شرح ابن أبي العز على العقيدة الطحاوية رحمه الله الجميع. And we're still talking about البصيرة عند دعوة الله عز وجل. قال ومضى على ما كان عليه الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم خير القرون هم الصحابة والتابعون لهم بإحسان يوصي به الأول الآخر ويقتدي فيه اللاحق بالسابق، وهم في ذلك كله بنبيهم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم مقتدون، على منهاجه سالكون، كما قال تعالى في الكتاب العزيز قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. إن كان قوله أنا ومن اتبعني معطوفا على الضمير في أدعو فهو دليل على أن أتباعه هم الدعاة إلى الله، وإن كان معطوفا على الضمير المنفصل وهو صريح أن أتباعه أهل البصيرة بما جاء به دون غيرهم، وكلا المعنيين حق. We talked about the first part, how when the latter imitates the former, and how the people who come later imitate the people who come early. That chain continues to be sound, and here we're talking about the chain of being on the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala has a famous saying where he said, لا يصلح لن يصلح حال آخر هذه الأمة إلا بما صلح به حال أولها. Very profound. He said, nothing will fix the affair of the latter of this ummah unless it follows what fixed the affair of the former of this ummah. So for anybody to pretend that they're looking after the interest of Islam and they want to follow a methodology or a manhaj or a mentality or a philosophy other than that of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then either they're oblivious or they don't want the good for Islam. And it's all about personal gains and agenda. This is our deen. This is our deen. Radi man radi, sakhid man sakhid. This is our deen. This is how we are. This is how we will be. And this is how we will finish. And you can see today a lot of those who represented Islam, you look at them and you say, this is new Islam. And you hear what they say, you say, well, where they got this from? When you listen to their rhetorics, to their agendas, to their plans, you say, and they're speaking on behalf of Islam, you say, what Islam are they talking about? And it's not hidden, or it's not a conspiracy for that. There is a movement, there is a group, big group, very funded, very supported, call for the tajdeed. Tajdeed al-Islam. And that is very much the renovation of Islam. But not in the sense renovation to bring it back to the Ahd al-Awwal and to the beginning, to be the way after it went off, to bring it back, to fix al-masala, to fix the... No. Tajdeed meaning we have to discuss al-fiqh again. We have to talk about fiqh again. Fiqh al-waqi. We have to understand the fiqh of reality. That's important. We need to understand reality, to understand how we go with it within the realms of al-fiqh and usul al-fiqh. But that's not what they mean. What they mean is we need to reconsider al-fiqh that we were taught, or the ummah has been following for the last 1400 years. We need to rethink it, to be in more of alignment with the world, the new world order, with the way that the world is functioning. Like what? He comes, مثلا, he will come at financial issues. So, we understand that for 1400 years, riba is riba, right? However, if you look 200 years ago, and before the existence of the Bank of England, right, who introduced money and introduced paper and introduced the idea of interest, so-called, which is nothing but usury. If we look before, I understand why interest is a big deal. But now the world system, the global system, doesn't function without riba. You want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to buy, if you want to go and shopping and buy food, then use your card, credit card, whatever, there's interest. Most probably you're going to put yourself in a position that you might have to pay. It's becoming to say that all this kind is interest, you're making it difficult for people. And you're making it difficult to go along and to function well with the global system. So, what's the problem with interest? So we shouldn't talk about riba anymore. Riba is something else. That's what they say. Riba is something else. Right? If people are in agreement and people benefiting, which is an argument. Well, what's the problem? They tell you, if I get a borrow money with interest, and I'm just calling it interest because that's what people are accustomed to, whereas I feel challenged to be calling it interest, and I feel embarrassed because it's not an interest. It's just it's a manufactured term to make it look good. It's not interest. Interest when both are interested, when both are benefiting. But we know the usury system benefiting one side, the lender. يجي واحد يقول مثلا, well, I bought a house, and this is an argument, actually an email I received from a sister or brother, I don't know. I didn't see there's a value to even reply. Anyway, because you can sense that they already made a position, and all they're doing is just, they want to prove their point. And you know that the point is no way it will ever be proved, or will ever be accepted. So, if usury is, the rich gives money to the poor, and then take interest from them, right? Well, if I go to a bank, that does not apply. If I go to a bank and borrow $100,000 to buy a car or a house, and then I return and I pay them back the $100,000 with interest, again, some reservation on the term interest, well, they're benefiting and I'm benefiting, which is an argument. They're benefiting and I'm benefiting. So where's the problem? That's what they are. There's no problem there. It's just a sales contract. And the funny thing, these people think that this is a new thing they came up with. Allah Azza wa Jal makes it clear in the Quran. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. And Allah made sales, right? Merchant, buying and selling, halal, and made the riba haram. Because that gives you the impression that people will use the action of riba and call it bay', call it sales. That's what it is. The idea of selling loans, that's a big business in this country. All these cash checking places, it's selling loans. They're selling loans, selling and buying loans. Because that check you get paid, when your boss or your company you work for gives you a check, right? That check worth nothing. It's a piece of paper, right? It's a piece of paper. Right? Even the money you're gonna get when you cash the check, a piece of paper. Inherently in itself has no value. Paper, not worth a few cents. How much is a Benjamin worth, right? $100 bill. How much is worth in paper and ink? Penny? You see? And the idea is tomorrow. And today or yesterday, this knucklehead, right, called president, he came out and he said we pull out of the international weapon treaty or trade, right? He just pulled out. He didn't consult, he didn't ask anybody. He just got excited. In the heat of the moment, in front of the NRA, we're pulling out. It's just to get more clapping and more screaming, right? He comes tomorrow and he said, we're changing the currency. I'm sick of that and tired of seeing Hamilton and Benjamin and Franklin or whatever. I want my picture on all the American currency. And suddenly the money you have in papers have no value. Which they did before in other countries. And in the Iraqi war, they came and they said, that's it. The original Iraq, and while Saddam was still in power for the second invasion, they said, the original, no more. We're not trading with the original. And they issued a new currency. New bills, money bills, and it's all printers. Start printing. Have no value. So what they did, Saddam's children, as I'm informed, what they did was they will print and go down and send their guys to buy what? To buy gold with printed money that has no value. That's why jewelers started shutting down, because they really collected all the gold in the market with money that's printed, with their printers, right? And they have big printers, not like my and your printers, right? Heavy-duty printers. That's why today, people today, until today, still holding to original money, especially people who work in the money exchange and banks, right? All they can show that, right? I remember my father used to work with this. And he would bring at home, big bags, that used for khudra or basar, big, huge bags full of money, like stacks. And still, I think it's still being traded, with the hope that maybe one day someone will come and say, we're going to compensate people for the original. You start doing it. You know, the Iraqi dinar at one point, I think was $5-6 before the invasion. The Iraqi dinar. No, for $100 you get, I don't know, a couple of millions. So it doesn't really have value. That's where the control happens. That's why they will stand firm against Islamic system, financial system. Because in Islamic financial system, a lot of people only thinking about getting mortgage to buy a house. The Islamic financial system is way bigger than that. It's more exclusive than that, or inclusive. Part of financial system, Islamic financial system, these papers have no value. So in a sound, intact Islamic financial system, the exchange, why people invented money? Why people invented money? For exchange. Because it was difficult to carry a house when you want to sell it and get something in return. So they invented money. So you were kind to, this is worth this is yours, you pay me, and now I have a paper that says it's worth this. Long story, but the idea is, in a sound, intact Islamic financial system, that the currency of exchange must have value. So I can trade. The trading happens with commodities that have value. What is it I'm going to give you something worth $1 million and you're going to give me papers? Right? So the solution is the financial Islam, and this was not necessarily only in Islam, it was before. And actually it's one of the solutions that is out on the table to save the world from financial crisis. And that is, whatever we use to exchange must have value. And what they use? Gold and silver. That's what they used. They used to buy things with gold and silver. Okay? The Roman dinar, dirham, and then later on, I think in the time of Abdul Malik bin Marwan, Suk Awal dinar Islami, you know? It's just happened later when you start having the Islamic dinar and all. But it was gold and silver. And now we have, now we can't talk. Right? So that's the idea. And that's why they're going to stand against it. Because if this becomes the currency, then all these people, so when you hear someone who's worth $50 billion, imagine how many papers that is. That's why overnight he could wake up and has lost 10 billion. That's why stock market drops a bit, a crisis happens, and he's left with half. Or, I don't know exactly numbers, but Bezos, the Amazon guy, how did he become the richest man in the world? When he bought Souq, which is a platform, right? Just like Amazon, but in the Middle East. So when Amazon bought it, suddenly next day he's the richest man in the world. Even though you think about it, he paid money, meaning they gave away money. How did he become the richest man? The stocks went up. That's it. His stocks went up. He didn't become richest man because suddenly he has more money. He became the richest man is because what people perceive his company to be worth increased. You understand? That happens, then you get a little scandal, and his stocks plummeted. And now he's not the richest man in the world. You have the scandal of Facebook. In few hours, Zuckerberg, right, lost, I think, what, $30–40 billion of his net worth. We need to work so much to get $40 billion, you know, right? So, it means nothing. He's devastated now. No, you and me, when we lose $100, we get devastated because that's half of our wealth, right? The idea is for them. He's $50 billion worth, but he's never seen $50 billion. He never had in his hand $50 billion. He doesn't have gold worth of $50 billion. It's a stock market game. That's what it is. So don't be deceived. It's a deception. You understand? It's a deception that he's worth $50 billion. Tomorrow something happens, some new regulations, company gets hit, out of business. Out of business. And you look at Sears, right? You got Kmart. now, yeah, closing, what you say, well, they have merchandise, they have real estate. Yeah, you know who's going to get that money? Debt, creditors. Creditors, people who sold them stuff and did not get paid yet. Those are the first in line. This is by judge, by the court. Those are the first in line to collect, to get their money. Creditors. It's not like the owner's going to walk away with, you know, just closing down and selling and liquidating what you have. You end up with millions of them. That's not going to anybody except creditors who put that stuff in there and waiting to be paid. Understand? Anyway, so the idea is you're going to have people who are calling today and saying, well, Islam to Muslim, to go along with the rest of the world, right? We need to deal with this. So it's not haram. Very simple. Are you kidding? Yeah. They're big names in the Muslim world who we reach a point where we say, for example, putting your money in a bank and collecting interest, right? Collecting usury. They say, no, this is not interest. This is business. You're putting your money with them. They're investing for you. They're making money for themselves and for you. So what's the problem? There's no problem. The only problem with that is they guarantee you profit. Where if a bank takes your money and tells you, listen, we'll take your money and we invest it. Based on our studies and based on our research, we can invest it in businesses that the chance you will lose some money, not even 0.5%. But there's a chance, no problem. As long as these businesses halal, they're going to invest it. The problem, the banks don't do that. The banks guarantee you. So if the bank wins, the bank loses, you're guaranteed profit. That's where the problem is. That's usual. That's usual. Any transaction, if profits are guaranteed, that's usual. That's not permissible. Very simple. Gambling. Why gambling haram? Same idea. But the difference with gambling is because you say, well, I can win, I can lose in gambling. So why it's haram? Right? نزل الشدة يا ولد. نزل. شو بسموه؟ الكروت هذه. البالوت. So the court, right? Gambling. People can win, people can lose. Why is it haram? The problem with gambling is haram because for someone to win, someone must lose. Listen. The investment part, guaranteeing profit, is how make the transaction. In gambling, for someone to win, someone else must lose. That's why it's hard. So in business, in selling and buying, you could win, you could make money, you could lose money. True. All possibilities are there. You buy, he sells. He could make money, you could get stuck with it and lose money. You could make money and he could make money. He could lose money and you could lose money. So all possibilities are there. But in gambling, you don't have possibilities. Either you win or you lose. And for you to lose, someone else has to win. For you to win, someone else must lose. How? Because the mentality, the idea, the philosophy behind that is the establishing of ill feelings toward one another. Because making money is not a purpose. Having harmony in a society is. Establishing balance and harmony and brotherhood in a society is. Making money is not a purpose. It's not. So you're not going to risk that, to risk something, to risk a purpose for the sake of a non-purpose. Understand? But the idea is the success of this ummah at any time is only by holding tight to the way that Muhammad and his companions and the generations to follow, right? The very first generation, then the second, practice. Anybody else says other than that, show us. Very simple. We just tell them, show us. Show us a successful model for Mujaddid. Or the people, they call them, in English, the reformers, who want to reform the deen. You find that happen in Christianity, it happened in Judaism, in Yahudi, it happened in different religions. Reform, right? Yeah, today when you tell someone, for example, Hindu, it's a fundamental part of Hinduism, the caste system, right? The caste system. The caste system where you have 4 levels. You have the Brahmins, then you have the politicians, then you have the workers, and then you have the untouchable, right? The Brahmins, meaning the religious people, the people of religion, they are the top caste. And people cannot move between castes. Meaning if you're born to a Brahmin, you're going to be a Brahmin, you're going to be always your life on the elite on top of it, right? If you're born as untouchable, the untouchable means they're so dirty and they're so not worthy to even be touched. That's a system, that's still existing, and I know about it because I did. That was my research in one of religious studies class, maybe 15 years ago. But anyway, still exists in a lot of India, especially the villages. And so you come to a Hindu doctor and you tell him, look, this is your religion. He said, no, we don't believe in that. True, he doesn't believe in that because he's a reformer. You come to a Jew and you tell him, we're all Gentile to you and we're all created to serve you. He says, no, I'm a Reformed Jew. I tell you, I'm a Reformed. Their churches, their synagogue, Reform Jews, right? Reform synagogue, Reform whatever, temple, right? And we have this, and Islam is not free from that. Islam is not free from individuals who want to do that, and that happened mainly the beginning of the 20th century. When there was become a huge pressure, big pressure against Muslims due to the age of enlightenment in Europe and the industrial revolution in Europe, right? What happened is Muslims were already the loss of the Khilafah, even toward the end of the Khilafah, drifting away from Islam, right? Drifting away from it, because there are a lot of plots. A lot of Muslims are naive enough to think that the Khilafah ended, right, on the hands of Kemal Atatürk. No. Kemal Atatürk was the bullet that was fired into the head of the Khilafah. That's it. But that does not mean Khilafah was healthy when it got the bullet. The Muslim Khilafah was very sick, and had it been sick, one bullet would have not killed it. It had been taking bullets, you can't imagine, on the hands of the Europeans. Tens of plots where had taken place in the cunning and the plotting of the Europeans to trample the Islamic Khilafah. So Kemal Atatürk was just the last bullet. do it on his own. He didn't do it on his own. It's the plan was planned for him, was drawn for him, step by step, and he was told what to do for each step, and suddenly Kemal Ataturk is here. Right? Needs a little reading of history to understand that, but anyway, so because of that, so the weakening of the Ummah of Islam, the last breaths and last heartbeats of the Khilafah al-Islamiyya, the Industrial Revolution in Europe, all that developed insecurity to a lot of Muslims, especially those who lead the effort. Right? And in you talking about, if we're talking about the beginning of the 20th century, if you think, where is Islam? And if you're going to pick one place to say this, if you want to learn it, if you want to become a scholar of Islam, during that period, the one place you would go to is where? Azhar. Azhar at that time had big influence. Yes, it's everywhere, but Azhar is the big influence, right? Beside even Turkey itself. So those people who were in charge, the heads of Al-Azhar, the editors of Al-Azhar publications, these people, right, were the influential figures. People affiliated with Al-Azhar. And I'm sure they taught us some of those names growing up, but they never told us what they were all about. They told us that those were heroes. People like Muhammad Abdu, Jumaddin Afghani, people like that. All these people, all these figures, all these names, due to the pressure, they wanted to establish this reform. They wanted to establish this reform. And can you believe if I tell you, the Shaykh of Al-Azhar, at that time, denied the existence of something called Iblis, or someone called Iblis. Religious leaders denied Jannah, Nar, or hellfire, or paradise, or all that, and they tell you all this is allegorical, and all this is symbolic. Symbolic refers to khair, or shar, or good, or bad, or good end, or bad end. But these things don't really exist. Just why? Because you have an industrial revolution in Europe that only succeeded when it separated church from state. Not only that, but demonized religion. A lot of people are mistaken with that. A lot of people think that that's it. The European Revolution happened and they became advanced when they separated church from religion. That's not enough. That's not enough. It wasn't enough. They separated, and then they made sure to convince people that religion is nothing but mythical, khurafa, that only applies to poor people. So, and what stands is science. We believe in science. We don't believe in Ghayb, we don't believe in God. That's why atheism and all. We don't believe in superpower, we don't believe prophets and revelation. So not only they separated, but also they demonized meaning they made it look evil, made religion look evil. Right? That's exactly what Fir'aun did with Musa alayhi salam. When Fir'aun spoke to the people, right? He said what? He said he wants to change your faith. And he wants to spread corruption. أو أن يظهر في الأرض الفساد يبدل دينه أو أن يظهر في الأرض الفساد. That Musa, Fir'aun suddenly is a preacher. Fir'aun suddenly is a Shaykh, right? He's telling the people, this Musa is dangerous. Why? Because he wants to change your religion. Or he wants to spread corruption. It works. Yani Fir'aun, how many people he killed? يذبح أبناءه. يذبح. صيغة ايش؟ بالغة. يذبح mean يعني heavily slaughtering their kids, killing their kids. Bani Israel. Killing right and left. He's told that a boy from Bani Israel will destroy his throne. So what he did, he started killing the new boys, the new baby, the new birth, the newborn males. Then they told him, listen, you're going to run out and nobody's going to serve you. So he started killing 1 year and saving 1 year, killing 1 year and saving 1 year. But he killed Allah. When Musa came back, after Allah made him a messenger and sent him back to Fir'aun, what was one of the things Fir'aun told Musa? قال وفعلت فعلتك التي فعلت. وموسى قتل واحد بالخطأ. The story of the Egyptian, right, with the carpets, and Musa, the guy from Bani Israel with the carpet, and Musa went to interfere, and he pushed the carpet, and it was strong enough for the guy to drop dead. So by mistake, he killed one. He repented, and Allah forgave him. So when Musa returned as a messenger, Fir'aun bi'ayyir. Fir'aun reminded him of his heinous crime. You did what you did. Did you forget what you did? Oh, he's killing millions, thousands. Suddenly he becomes a human rights activist. That's what you hear all day long. Every time you hear a ruler or a tyrant talking about preserving human life, Fir'aun. What's about the people you've been slaughtering and killing, and people you're torturing in your prisons, and people that their families haven't heard from them? 30 years ago they were taken off the street and nobody heard about them in your prisons and your mass graves. And you come to talk to me about human life. What are you talking about? Think I'm gonna believe you? That's why Ibadallah, to understand the reality of things, you have to look with the eyes of the very early people. That is called basira. فإنها لا تعمل الأبصار ولكن تعمل قلوب التي في الصدور. مكان البصيرة القلب. That's why Allah Azza wa Jalla, He goes on. But in the beginning He said, He established to you that throughout what's required of the Muslims at any era, at any point in of time and place, is to be on the footsteps of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Literally on the footsteps of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Don't come and say we are in different time, we are in America, we are in the 21st century, we are in Alaska, No. Keep that to yourself. You want to change, that's your business. But I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna stand a thorn in your throat. And there will be always, and the Prophet said it. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي قائمة على الحق. He said, a group of my ummah will continue to be standing for the truth. And that indicates what? What would you understand from that? You understand that if He went as far as to say, there will be always a group that will stand firm on the haqq, on the truth. لا يضرهم من خذلهم ولا من عاداهم. They will not bother with those who turn them down, those who turn their backs to them, those who fight them. Yeah, wallahi. Tells you what? Tells you that the majority of the ummah will deviate. When he goes as far as to say, there's a group of my ummah will continue to stand firm on that. Tells you what? What happened to the rest? They're not. That's what it's all about. And I said it before, and I keep saying it, and I think I even said in the khutbah today, it's all about convenience. Today, whatever khutbahs you listen to, whatever people, masjid you attend, you can evaluate the people, and I can tell you clearly. And I'm not speaking out of my own, I'm sitting in this masjid and doesn't know what goes on. I didn't sit in this masjid always. I've been around, I taught in a lot of masajid, and I've been out of the state. And the idea is now, you don't have to go to a masjid to know what goes on in that masjid. They save you the effort. They air it on Facebook, right? You're sitting at home and you see what's happening in there. You wanna know what they stand about, what it's all about. Just look at their message. Look at where the focus is. And if you see that all about convenience, people don't want to take risk because they don't want to disrupt their smooth lives. And I have my job, I have my family, my car is paid off, my house almost paid off, 15 more years, right? My this, my that. Why, what one person gonna change? That's the idea. If I speak up, what am I gonna change? So, maybe be quiet, live my life. Inshallah, Allah sends the change. Allah gonna reveal boxes of change, right? That doesn't happen. You're one. If you imagine each one of us says that, Allah is about to wipe us out and put new people. استبدل قوما غيركم ثم لا يكونوا أمثالكم. And Allah warns of that. This is how you're going to think. Allah will replace you, will wipe you out, and replace you with different people, and they won't be like you. This ummah is standing up, fundamental amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. Speaking up, standing up for the truth, fighting the evil. باليد, بالكلمة, بالقلب. When you follow someone, you hear from someone, and all they talk about is staying away from disruption and staying away from being controversial. Right? Today you speak the truth, you're controversial. One brother tells me that they have an issue with certain members of the community, and this certain members sued the masjid, and so they have to defend and all that. So they were talking to this group of brothers from that masjid, the board, they were talking to Allah. They have two lawyers. So one of the lawyers, so my name popped up, my name. So one of the lawyers goes, oh, he's controversial. I said, okay, that's my middle name. I'm gonna go change my name to controversial. What is controversial? It's controversial. Today, if you're gonna, إذا غرت بر السر, you're controversial. And controversial is never ever mentioned with a positive derogatory. Always controversial meaning someone who got different ideas than everybody else and should align himself with everybody else. Well, shahada for me. Because everybody else is not doing what they're supposed to. More so. All of us just looking for validation. Make sure that they're pleased with me. Who cares? Right? And the latest is this thing, Sri Lanka. Who cares? We condemn it. It's against our religion. Right? And you find Muslims are so apologetic. Right? Yes, I mean, the Archie, whatever they call him, the head of the Christian church in Sri Lanka came out today and he said, whoever did whatever, the bombing, do not represent Islam. That's the head of the Christian church, or the Catholic, whatever their religions, right? And you find a lot of Muslims, a lot of Muslim leaders, a lot of Muslim scholars, whatever, being apologetic. We're sorry, Islam against this and that. Very soft, as they are defeated. Who cares? I will not apologize because I didn't do anything. I feed the ducks in the backyard. I didn't kill anybody. I don't promote it. I'm against it, but there's no reason for me to apologize to you. You know why? Because you don't apologize to me when one of your guys does something bad to my people. And at the end of the day, I don't really expect your apology, or your apology is not going to make any difference to me. And I'm not going to blame you for some knucklehead doing something. Very simple. How many countries recognized as Christians apologize to Muslims for what the guy did in New Zealand? And Muslims went crazy, and how much they are in love with the New Zealand Prime Minister, right? The lady. See, she is amazing, and she's doing her job. She wants to be re-elected. She's doing her job because that is her responsibility. What happened to the Muslims in New Zealand and to the masjid falls partially or collectively on her. She waliyat al-amr. Isn't she in charge? Yani the Minister of Intelligence in Sri Lanka resigned. When you have few days before, or even a few weeks, already investigated intelligence saying that there's a group planning to blow up churches during Easter's or whatever, and you did not take any action. Why you didn't take any action? Right? So she's doing her job. When she's becoming or being apathetic or empathetic or sympathetic with the Muslims, she's doing her job. And Muslims went off the roof. Very soon they're gonna, and everybody, Ya Allah, make her Muslim, Ya Allah, make her Muslim. The lady's doing her job, nothing more. That's what normal people will do. Yeah, we appreciate her extra step, but she's doing her job. Because at the end, she's responsible. She's responsible because the system is under her. But again, we're not going to hold her against her. We don't expect much, whatever. You had anything to do with what happened, sir? So why should you apologize? Why we should always feel that insecurity, that we feel the need to defend ourselves. Because we're insecure. Because we're not understanding the deen of Allah the way Allah wants us to understand. Because we read, we read it, but we don't understand. دايما بيقولوا حافظين بس مش فاهمين. Right? We memorize and we read, but we don't understand. Why is it Allah, when Allah tells you أن العزة لله ولرسوله وللمؤمنين ولله العزة ولرسوله وللمؤمنين لكن المنافقين لا يعلمون. Why? Just for you to read it and to memorize it and to read in the salah. If that does not translate into the way you deal with affairs on a daily basis, what's the point? Then at the end of the day you say, my way is the Quran. So, when you feel that you have to defend yourself because someone who called himself Muslim did something wrong, that's not honor. Brother texted me the night that happened, and he's so worried that it's going to be a Muslim. He's so afraid that there's going to be a Muslim. And the reason he's afraid, because he doesn't know how he's going to face his co-workers. He's a superman. He doesn't know how he's gonna face his coworker. He doesn't know how he's gonna whatever. Okay. And I was very upset with him. I said, there's a big, huge problem with the statement you're making right now. And actually that was the day or next day of Sri Lanka what happened. And I told him, you will figure it out. I will not tell you why, but you need to figure it out. He figured it out today. Today he texted me after Juma. I don't know if he was here. He said it was a big problem because all I worried about is myself. That's true. When these things happen, we worry about ourselves. How are they going to perceive us? How are they going to think about us? I might get a backlash. I might be attacked. Think about your deen. Think about your deen. And when you think you're individual, you're weak. By yourself, you're weak. So if you're going to think about it from personal perspective, you're going to be scared. And that's exactly what happens. So you're scared. Now, how am I going to react? So once I say, I apologize. But when you think about it as from an ummah perspective, these people don't represent us. These people don't represent Islam. Our deen doesn't call for that. So the next guy who comes approaches you, why you guys always troublemaker? Why are you always making, no, dude. Don't be saying you guys. This is a group of people, for whatever reason they choose to do it. You're gonna say, because of Islam, because of whatever, that's there. You go ask them. Don't ask me, I didn't do it. And my deen, don't attack my deen. Because what they did had nothing to do with my deen. Very simple. Who's going to do it? شكلنا مش هنطلع من هالجملة. قال كما قال تعالى في كتابه العزيز قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. And here, so the da'wah to Allah Azza wa Jal, here the Prophet ﷺ, Allah tells the Prophet ﷺ to say this, that this is my way. So we establish the way. The Prophet ﷺ established the way. That's why the next part talks about delivering the da'wah, tabligh, the complete fulfillment of the da'wah. So this is my way, which was he presented with the Quran and this is my way. أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. Here he says, I invite to Allah with the right understanding. I invite to Allah with the truth. I invite to Allah, أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة, to the truth. I and those who follow me. That's why the first part had to talk about who is really a follower of the Prophet. So once we establish that, then he drives this out. So this ayah can be read in two different ways. There is whole ilm in the Quran has to do with the waqf, has to do with the waqf, where you stop. When you're reciting the Quran, where you stop. When you're reading the ayah, where you stop to make a big meaning, to make the right meaning. Because sometimes people stop in a way that is very ugly, that gives the wrong meaning. It gives a meaning that's not intended. They stop at the wrong word. And that's a problem with a lot of people who memorize the Quran. They're not taught the science. So he reads, right? And he stops wherever his breath ends. And then he continues, that's fine. To stop where your breath ends, you cannot. But the problem happens, even sometimes stopping at certain points is wrong. But what happens with that? Okay, he stopped at the wrong place. Then when he starts again, he starts at the wrong place again. Instead of going back a little bit to make the meaning straight. Right? So this is very delicate, very amazing Science has to do with the Quran to give you a different perception of the Quran and different taste. Right? Without, if you don't know the Quran, trust me, translation is not going to serve that purpose. All right? Translation, not of the Quran, but the meaning of the Quran, because the Quran cannot be translated. All right? So, فhe says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. We stop here. This is my way, I invite to Allah. So that's an idea. Right? Then you start next part. أنا على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبع. So من الذي على بصيرة؟ أنا ومن اتبعني. والبصيرة, just to make it simple, بصيرة is the truth and the right understanding and the right way and the right thing. So if we divide the ayah like this, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. This is my way, I invite to Allah. And I invite to Allah to this way. And this is a complete sentence with complete meaning. Then you start next part. عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Meaning I and whoever follows me are on the right with the right understanding on the truth. Now, if you read it like this, so this is the way we just explained, is if you read it like قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, you stop. عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Now the other way you're going to read it, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Now it becomes what? Al-Basira, in the first way, Al-Basira and the truth and the understanding was an adjective or description of the Prophet ﷺ and those who follow him. But when we read the whole thing all together, Al-Basira is an adjective and description for what? For the da'wah. For the da'wah. Meaning now, I invite, this is my way, I invite to Allah. I and those who follow me, we invite in the right fashion, with the right understanding. Where in the first way we read it, I and those with me are on the right path. Both meanings are fine, but the second meaning is strong. And just some people, what's about that? When it comes to waqf, there's a famous rule. Right? There's a famous rule, and that is, you cannot stop. Right? You cannot stop at one point and start at the next point. Right? If the starting at the next point does not make sense. And what happens? Some people stop, and then he might go a couple of words and connect it with what's after, right? Now those couple of words that he went back to get so he can recite along the next part makes a full statement. That's fine, but with one condition. And that condition is those couple of words he went back to and he started, whatever before them must make sense on its own. So in other words, wherever he went back, the couple of words, if we would remove everything from that point on, what was behind must make sense. With the other words, in other words, he cannot go back that much. And all that comes with understanding, with practice, with knowing where to stand, where to stop, where to continue. But this is an important rule. Because sometimes you can get a word from the back and blends with what you want to read next. Right? But now what you left behind, that word you went back to, what you left behind is incomplete sentence. Makes no sense without that word. You cannot do that. You can go all the way back to get that sentence with that word you want to add and continue. That's fine. But you cannot go and cut off from the previous recitation a couple of words to add more meaning to what you're about to recite and leaving what's before with no meaning. طيب هذا على بصيرة. Because to finish up is the Jews invite to Allah, the Christians invite to God, right? And they call him Allah. Christian Arabs call God Allah. Jewish Arabs call God Allah. Other nations call God God, right? Whatever they want to call. So every people, every followers of any religion call for God. So what's the difference? The difference is, yes, they call for God. They invite to God. They invite to Allah, but not the right way. Not the right thing. When a Christian invites to God and tells you God died, God was crucified, God got up, God was buried, he's inviting to God. على بصيرة؟ لا. Right? And every other people. Only the Muslims, when they stick to the teaching of Muhammad ﷺ, they are the only ones who are going to invite to Allah the right way. Right? And what I mean by the right way, more is what they're inviting to, rather than the methodology, how they're inviting, but what they're inviting to. So everybody say we invite to God, including Muslims. However, the difference between Muslims and everybody else is Muslims invite to the right God. Invite to the right truth. Or to the truth. There's no need to say right truth, right? Truth is truth. Those other people invite to falsehood. They call it God, but it's not. Right? And imagine you worship a God. Just think about how you would be thinking of your God, right? Now you as a Muslim, when you think of Allah, when you think of God, perfection, right? In every aspect. Asma, sifat, names and attributes, perfection. Imagine your God that you believe in, you worship. They told you at one point he was killed. They tell you at one point some people overdo him, overpowered him, and they got him and they nailed him down to a cross, a wooden cross, and then they erected him up, and then they killed him. This is traumatizing. Imagine every time you go to a church, you see a cross, and reminds you of that event. Imagine every time they talk about crucifixion. You tell me mentally what it will leave on you as a follower of that God. When you're going into distress, when you're oppressed, and you need help, you don't think Shaitan going to capitalize and tell you, even your mentality. You're going to ask help from a God who could not help himself. That's why Christianity means nothing to Christians. It's all words, talk. But where is it in their practice? Zero. Love. But where is it in your life? You're the biggest criminals. You people have killed most people in the history of mankind. You're the ones who are waging all wars. You're making the craziest bombs and weapons no sound man will ever think about. What is that for? If it's all about love. It's no practice. Because God was trickled down. My God died, my God was killed, my God this, my God that, right? My God was sleeping. Jesus used to sleep. God drinks, my God eats, my God goes to the bathroom, because Jesus used to do that, human. Right? So what regard do you think that would live in the heart of the person toward this great God, when he did everything that you did, when he needed everything that you needed? And at the end of the day, yeah, you can say, oh, this is the Son and this is the Father. Still God to them. So they belittle God so much, people take no regards. Look in Islam. Look in Islam. When you say Allah, when you say God, you don't cross the line. You know that that's where you're limited. Allah. You talk about perfection, it's Allah. As a beauty. Alright? أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم صلى الله على سيدنا محمد سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.